Hi everybody. In this video I'm going to go over the instructions for Project 1. Remember that if you still have questions after reviewing this video and after looking at the instructions and the assignment rubric, to please notify me via Canvas mail and to do that no later than 5 p.m. on the Friday before the assignment is due. That way you guarantee that you'll get a response prior to the due date for the assignment, because remember, I usually answer emails within 48 hours and I don't answer any emails on Sunday. So that means otherwise, if it's past 5 p.m. on Friday, you won't get a response until after the due date. So let me go ahead and pull up Canvas so you can see in this video exactly how the assignment will appear when you log into it in Canvas. So remember, Project 1, that's going to be listed separately from the chapter module or the regular module. Projects are always listed separate. So go over the overview for this. Basically what we're doing for Project 1 is we're incorporating information from the modules dealing with the history of psychology as well as the module dealing with psychological research. Read over the what next, and remember that you are expected to demonstrate college level writing within these projects, really within any kind of writing project in this class. If you fail to do so, if you have a lot of typos, your sentences just don't really make any sense, there's no structure to it, there's grammar errors, things like that, you can be penalized up to 20% of the grade for this assignment as a result. So I always suggest just do that spell check. The projects are always going to be done where you will have a preset form. So at the bottom of this Project 1, you'll see where there's two buttons. One is Project Submission, the other is Project Form. So if you click on that project form, you'll pull up the Microsoft Word document that you need to fill out. Click right here in that kind of blue shaded area that says Download General Psychology Project 1, and it'll pull up like this. Now, it's pretty cut and dry. All the projects in this class are literally step by step. So make sure you follow the steps. The first few parts to this project are going to involve you selecting a topic within psychology. So in fact, that's step 1. It says from the drop-down menu below, if you click in that area that says choose an item, you'll see there's a little arrow on the side. Click on that and you'll see a series of different topics within psychology. These are very broad topics. You have to select one of these. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. If it's just something you're like, oh, wow, like learned helplessness. That sounds like an interesting topic. I'm going to pick that. Click on it. That's it. Next step. What I want you to do is to research this topic. So if you wanted to know more about learned helplessness, do what we normally do, right? If you have a question about something, you Google it. Search for it on the internet. So I want you to do that. I want you to look up information about the topic that you selected. It doesn't have to be learned helplessness, the way you normally would, by looking online. Find a website that you think is interesting, that explains this, that you would normally use to find out information about something. And I want you to, in the space below step 2, just cut and paste the URL, the website, for that web page. Now, in step 3, this is where you're going to start incorporating some writing. Explain why you picked the site to get the information about the topic you selected. Do you believe the information on the site was credible and can be corroborated? What that means is it just somebody saying, I think that learned helplessness means this? That can't really be corroborated, right? Because somebody can't say, no, you don't think that. No. So basically what I'm saying here is the site that you selected talking about facts, about solid information that's been studied, that's been researched? So explain your answer here, and it's a 200-word minimum. Literally click the space below like I did there where you see the cursor, and you're going to start typing. Of course, don't type that. Type actual words. Step 4, do you think that the information presented in the site you selected was scientifically based? Please explain your answer or your response in detail. That's a 100-word minimum. So basically, this kind of adds to that corroboration part. What is the basis for this website, this organization, whatever you decided to pick, in determining the information that they put out there? Now, remember on this, if you select a really, unscrupulous website, that's fine. What I want you to do here isn't to select the site you think I want you to be looking at. It's to tell me what you normally do. If you normally look stuff up on, I don't know, Wikipedia, or Psych Central or something like that pops up, there's no right or wrong answer here. I want you to look up the information how you would normally do it if you were just trying to find out something. We do this all the time. I do it all the time where I hear some, topic, some terms, something I want to know more about, and I Google it and I find some website and I'm starting reading and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. That's what I want you to do here. Not give me the answer you think I want to hear, but what you actually do in real life. Step 5, this is going to be in a little drop-down box. So select one of the perspectives in psychology that were discussed in class from the drop-down box below that can help you better understand the topic you selected in step 1. So say up here in step 1, I selected learned helplessness. What I'm going to do is click this box again, click that little arrow. I'm going to pick one of those perspectives, or sometimes they're called schools of thought, that I can explore that topic in greater detail on. So if I select something like behavioral approach, this is all about how we learn to behave a certain way, then I could start looking at something like learned helplessness as being a learned behavior. Well, that kind of makes sense. Again, there's no right or wrong answer here, though, right? You don't have to pick behavioral. I can tell you right now, the humanistic perspective has some views on learned helplessness. The cognitive, psychological perspective does. Pick any of the ones that you wanted to select here. You can pick whatever one, right? There's no right or wrong answer. Step 6, how do you think the perspective you selected above, like behavioral in my example here, would explain the causes and treatments of the topic you selected? This isn't where you have to look up research, right? Remember, for these projects, you don't have to look up and cite sources or anything like that. In fact, that's actively discouraged. I want your beliefs. This is you applying the knowledge you should have learned during these first 2 modules to a real topic. So you've heard about behaviorism. You should know what behaviorism entails. So tell me how somebody would apply that behavioral approach to learned helplessness, or whatever topic you selected, or whatever perspective you selected, right? If it's cognitive psychology and anxiety, if it's psychoanalytical approach or psychodynamic approach and aggression, you're going to tie those, you're going to connect those dots. This helps expand your learning because it's forcing you to actually apply what you're learning to a real situation. Step 7, this is where we're going to branch a little bit more into the psychological research part now. So for step 7, now that you have a topic selected and a perspective to apply to that topic, I would like for you to explore how research is done in psychology. Imagine you are a psychological scientist. You want to come up with an experiment that explores how the topic you selected in step 1 is caused and or worsened or improved. So if I am exploring behaviorism and learned helplessness, maybe I'll come up with something like how children who are abused learned to just kind of give up, and this is part of the process, right? So now if I wanted to do an experiment, I'm going to come up with what the population would be. Maybe in this case, it would be like abused children. What is the hypothesis for your experiment? This is where you're going to write one sentence. It's going to be falsifiable, so it has to have the ability to be proven wrong, and it has to be an if-then format. So if I think that maybe children who experienced abuse become adults who have learned helplessness, I'd say if experiencing abuse in childhood leads to learned helplessness, then adults who have experienced child abuse will have learned helplessness as adults, right? That's one sentence long. It's falsifiable, which means it can be proven to be wrong. Or you could do a study to show that that's not correct. And it's in that if-then format, right? So if something's true, then something else should be true. Tell me what the independent variable would be in your experiment, what the dependent variable would be. How would you conduct this experiment? So this is where you're going to really explain it, right? So if I think that child abuse causes learned helplessness, then I would say that the independent variable is, and that's just going to be one sentence. It's really going to be just one word, a couple words. Dependent variable is, so in this case, like independent variable would be child abuse. Dependent variable would be levels of learned helplessness. And this would be really weird, right? Because you'd have to do an experiment now. But, scholars sky's the limit. You can come up with whatever. You can say in this experiment, I'm going to have a control group that's going to not be abused, and I'm going to have an experimental group that's going to be abused, and then I'm going to wait 5 years, 10 years when these kids grow up to be adults, and I'm going to see what the levels of learned helplessness are. Right? Horrible, right? You'd never do that in reality. And the reason why I'm giving this as an example is because I don't want you all to use that example, right? So I'm going to give a really extreme one because you have to come up with your own. But at least now you kind of get the idea of what I'm looking for in this section. And that's a 100-word minimum just for this part about how you do the experiment. You don't have to go into crazy amounts of detail. 100 words really isn't very much for you just telling me what you'll do. Step 8, so this is the last part. In the space below, write about what you believe the purpose of this project was and how it helped you in applying the terms, concepts learned during the section of the semester. Please also specify if there are any terms, concepts that you still don't feel comfortable with. So in this area, you don't have a minimum word count. What I want to look at is just how well you're able to kind of connect all the dots for the project. And of course, if you do have any questions, like if you write in here, I still don't really understand what a hypothesis is or something like that, I'll answer it. Of course, though, like I said at the start of this video, if you really have questions about the project, the time to ask that's before you submit the project, right? Not after the fact. This is just to clarify any problems or questions you may have, really from those first 2 chapters. Last thing I want to show you here real quick, I'm going to go back to Canvas. So if I'm in my project here, right, I've downloaded the form, I filled out that form. Now I'm going to submit it. So I'm going to click on that project submission page, read over the things to remember. Again, I write on here that you need to do a spell check. Make sure the writing is all good. Underneath this, you see the rubric for this assignment, how your assignment will be graded. If you still are in this page, you're like, I want to go back and maybe watch this video or something else, you can click that return button and it'll bring you back to the project overview. Now, if you want to submit it, you're just going to come up here where it says start assignment. You're going to save the form that you just downloaded, the Microsoft Word form, to your computer, and you need to upload the file. So after you click upload file, it'll pull up here. And then you have to click this box that says, I agree to the tool's end of license agreement. This assignment submission is my own original work. That is all you have to do to submit it through Turnitin, right? You don't have to go into Turnitin separately. You just click that and then you click submit assignment. Now, remember, this will go through Turnitin. That's why I say don't quote outside sources. Don't, look up information. I want this to be your perspective. After you submit this, you can go into grades. And to the right of the grades in here, there'll be a little colored banner. And usually you have to wait a little while. Sometimes it can even be up to an hour after you submit the assignment. You click on that little colored banner and it'll tell you exactly what is similar from your assignment and what isn't. And also flag it if it looks like you were using AI. And I always tell students this, if it flags it really, really high, and what I mean by really, really high is like anything over like 15 or 20%. But that's not always a gold standard, because if you completely plagiarize something word for word and you put it in there and you're like, oh, it only flagged it as 10%. That's still plagiarism. So don't do it. But you need to go in and look at that and say, okay, this looks like it's at a high percentage. That was a mistake. I didn't plagiarize anything. Let me resubmit this assignment and change around some words so that it's an appropriate submission. And as long as you do that before the due date and before me grading it, you're fine, right? I'm only going to grade the last submission that you do. So that's it. As I mentioned, if you do have any questions or comments, concerns, anything you need my help with prior to submitting this assignment, please do so prior to 5 p.m. on the Friday before it is due. Otherwise, good luck to everybody, and I'll talk to you later.